these are the people that I'm going to be imagining are, the characters. Okay, also my hair is wet, not dirty, I just washed it. So I'm going to be reading it. Christmas won't be Christmas without any presents, said Joe crossly. It's so awful to be poor, agreed Meg, looking at her old dress. It's not right for some girls to have pretty things and others to have nothing at all, said Amy. We got father and mother and each other, said Beth gently. The 4 young faces round the fire cheered up as they thought of this, but then Joe said sadly, we haven't got father and we won't have him for a long time. She didn't say perhaps never, but each silently thought it, remembering that he was away at war in the south. Then Meg said, Mother says we shouldn't spend money on our presents when our men are fighting in a war. We can't expect anything from Mother or each other, said Joe, but we only have $1 each, and that won't help the army much. Let's each buy ourselves what we want and have a little fun. We work hard to earn it. I do, teaching those awful children, said Meg. What about me, said Joe. I'm shut up all day working for a terrible old lady who gives me different orders every 5 seconds. I think washing plates and cups and tidying things is the worst work in the world, said Beth. My hands get too tired to play my music. I have to go to school with girls who laugh at my dresses and say cruel things because my father isn't rich, said Amy. I wish we had the money Father lost when we were little, Joe, said Meg. I wish I was a boy, said Joe, then I could go and fight beside Father. Meg was 16 and very pretty, with large eyes and soft brown hair and white hands. 15-year-old Joe was very tall and thin. Her long, dark red hair was usually pushed up out of the way. Beth was 13, a very shy girl who seemed to live in a happy world of her own. Amy was the youngest, but thought herself to be the most important. She had blue eyes and yellow hair which curled up to her shoulders. At 6 o'clock, Beth put a pair of slippers by the fire to warm, and Meg lit the lamp. Amy got out of the comfortable chair without being asked, and Joe forgot how tired she was and held the slippers close to the fire. Those are old, she said. Mother needs a new pair. I'll get her some with my $1, said Beth. No, I shall, cried Amy. I'm the oldest, began Meg. I'm the man of the family now Father is away, and I shall buy them, said Joe. Let's each get her something and not get anything for ourselves, said Beth. That's a kind idea, said Joe. What shall we get? Everyone thought for a moment, then Meg said, I'll give her a nice pair of gloves. The best army slippers, said Joe. Some handkerchiefs, said Beth. And a little bottle of perfume, said Amy. It won't cost much, so I'll have some money left to buy something for me. We'll let Mother think we're getting things for ourselves and then surprise her, said Joe. Miss March arrived home soon after. She took off her wet things and put her warm slippers on. Meg made the tea. Joe brought wood for the fire. Beth was quiet and busy, and Amy gave the orders. I've got letters from Father, cried Mrs. March. It was a letter to cheer them up, and a special message from the girls, for the girls came at the end. Give them all my love and a kiss. I think of them every day. I know they'll be loving children to you, and that when I come back, I'll be prouder than ever of my little woman. A tear dropped off the end of Joe's nose. Amy hid her face on her mother's shoulder. I'm selfish, she cried, but I'll try to be better. We all will, cried Meg. I think too much about the way I look and I hate to work, but I won't anymore. And I'll try and be a little woman, said Joe, and not be rough and wild. Beth said nothing, but she began to work hard at blue army gloves that she was making. So the 4 girls decided they would all try to be very hard to be good. They would never be cross or lazy or selfish, and they would all "Hide the basket, quick," said Joe. But it was Amy. She came in quickly. "Where have you been and what's behind you?" asked Meg. "I ran to the shop and changed a little bottle of perfume for a big one," said Amy. "I spent all my money to get it, and I'm not going to be selfish anymore." Meg smiled proudly and put her arms around her sister. Then there was another bang from the outside door, and the basket was pushed back under the chair. The girls ran to the table, ready for their breakfast. "Happy Christmas, Mother," they shouted. "Happy Christmas, little daughters," said Mrs. March. And then the smile disappeared from her face. "Girls, listen. Not far away is a poor woman, Mrs. Hummel, with a new baby. Her 6 children are in one bed trying to keep warm, and they have no wood for a fire. There's nothing to eat,